Today we're going to talk about the Bing Izzy Rider Type 2. Main things that I changed in this board was the nose, and I took out some elements of the board. Basically, the tail outline and the width is almost exactly like the original Type 1. I changed the tail rocker a bit. The Izzy Type 1 had like a step tail, like exactly like pretty much like the Silver Spoon, which he really liked that because it basically made the tail thinner and made the board really responsive. But I felt like it was a little hard for people to just like explain it to customers and stuff, and some people felt like it was kind of in their way or when they were walking. So I kind of eliminated that. I really feel like it wasn't a strong enough design element to keep it. But we did change the nose template. Basically, we made the nose like a little narrower through here, but more blunt to get more kind of like you can get up there and parallel nose ride a little bit better. And because the original one had a little bit more of like a point in here. So basically, the rocker difference is the key with this board is really the rocker. So it's a very like gradual nose and tail, but in the nose it flattens off a little bit, and the tail it lifts a little bit like from the last 18 inches and accelerates a bit, just enough to where it will lift, and the nose rock or the tail rocker will actually make the nose lift and hold. And this seems like a really good combination, this rocker with this outline. It just like the nose and the tail really work well together. It's like it feels really good on the tail. It turns nice for how well it nose rides. So it's like I always equate it to like a ratio. This board is like it's like just as good on the nose as it is on the tail. It's equal. So it's like if you want this balanced everyday board for like everyday conditions, beach breaks, reefs, points, this board is very versatile. Works in steeper waves. It works in mushier waves. It was supposed to be like, we basically took the first version and made it way more user-friendly, and it just kind of encompasses a lot more wave types. And so that led to like most of the team riding the board in contest, and Izzy, like the changes we made together, he's really happy the way it turned out. And so we even got our new team rider Gordo and won the Mexi Log Fest on this model on a 9.6. So if you ever watch that footage, it shows really what this board can do. So some changes that I did in the tail that I feel like made it a really good superior nose rider and turning was the same thing that I added to the levitator that I had the levitator Type 2 that I had so much success was that rolled V, which gives that turning, that kind of really smooth rail to rail, like ball bearing feel, like just smooth transitions. But yet at the end, instead of sort of rolling it up, I just like it's flatter right in through here, so it kind of bites a little bit, but yet it's still soft, so the water grabs for the nose riding, but yet it gives you a little bit of punch in the turn. And then even when you go even deeper, when you do like a really deep fade, the tail has the edge and just on the end of the tail block, and that's what makes it just squirt through sections and get around. Like if you cut real back deep into the wave, you can just like accelerate out of that bottom turn and just like go back to the top of the wave, and you're in trim and just go right to the nose. So I would say in some ways it's a bit of a slightly technical board, not too technical, just from the standpoint that it's like it likes the flow of being on the tail, and you do the turn and then you set it up and then go right to the nose. It likes the pocket. It's not like a board that you can nose ride super far out. But in some ways, it reminds me of one of our really popular models, the Elevator, which sold really well for years. I really like the ratios of that outline, and I wanted to keep that, recreate that. In fact, the nose template is very similar to the Elevator. It's more of a blunt nose. It's like if you looked at the Elevator, it's like from here to here, it looks almost the same. I just like the way that board fits in the waves. With the narrower nose, it fits in the pocket nice, and you can go real deep on your nose rides and go right through sections and stuff. So basically the rails in the center, it's just 50-50, and then it kind of goes sort of in the tail. It's like a 60-40. And then the concave, not very deep, just mostly I moved it up a little further, so it's about 3/16 deep. I didn't want any kind of push, and I didn't want too much of an abrupt lift. So it's sort of like when you're walking up to the nose on this board, it's going to lift, into the nose ride, and it's not going to feel like an abrupt stop, like where the concave stops, where sometimes it can be like a spot where it grabs and it feels like you're misstepped or something. This board I wanted to be really fluid, so when you're going from the tail to the nose, it's like you don't feel any resistance, but yet it's still slowly lifting as you get to the tip, and then you've got a solid, pocket nose ride. And it will sustain itself pretty well when the wave starts backing off and you start going into the wave starts flattening out. It's not like it just dives, but you definitely, you're not going to stay up there like, say, a Continental or a Beacon with a lot wider nose, but a pretty substantial amount of lift on there, basically due to that tail rocker and that curve going across here. I think those are the key elements. And then the basic foil of the board is a little, it's a little more foiled out than some of the other models. It's just really refined and kind of tapers really well through the whole board, which makes it like really sensitive, all around, like everywhere you are on this board, it's like sensitive. You can kind of make changes on the nose, or when you're on the tail, you can do quick, correction turns or whatever, or big deep turns. It really likes like an aggressive turn, like an aggressive kind of traditional turn. I feel like it thrives with a kind of surfer that likes to surf harder, but it also will cruise and surf like, if you're a mellower surfer. I think what's really appealing to this board, that it's very lean, it's not bulky, it's not too wide, especially in the nose, and doesn't feel very thick. So it's very lean for lighter surfers. It's a great board, and for women, I think it's a really good board, just because it's just not a lot of foam everywhere. I just feel like it's overall going to be a good board for somebody that wants an equal feeling on the nose and an equal feeling on the tail, sort of like it nose rides as good as it turns, if that makes sense. Like, I don't like boards without concave because I feel like they wash out. Because if they have any kind of belly, they just don't want to trim, or they don't want to lock in, because these pontoons, the high spots where the concave goes in here, and then this is high and this is high, so that acts like kind of like a catamaran and keeps the nose stable and solid. So when you're up there, sometimes that's like, for this board I was thinking more, that's what I like about the concave. I didn't want the concave doing too much, because it can push and slow the board down too much, and then it's hard to sometimes transition that concave and make it blend nice, so it's fast and smooth. It's like, I feel like this board, if you're the kind of surfer that likes to be like, okay, I'm on the tail and then I'm on the nose, that's what this board really likes to be surfed. It trims well. It trims pretty decent in the middle. I mean, the wide point's back, so it lends itself to trim, sort of in the middle, but not. It's not gonna. You're not gonna want to be there for very long. You either want to be kind of on the tail and doing some, some turns to position yourself, but you can do some, more open, wider turns with like open face turns. It does that well because of the tail rocker, and then the edge back right in the end of the tail. That's really important. Good for like doing a sort of a roundhouse sort of smooth roundhouse turn or drop knee, and then go to the nose, and then it will just lock in. So it's kind of like a tail nose. Not so. If you wanted a board that trims more in the center, I would lean towards getting like the new Levitator Type 2, that's where it's really likes. It loves to be trimming from the center or forward of center to make sections. And also, I made this board leaner throughout, and when I scaled it up, I didn't go too thick in the center. So like a 9/8 is 3 1/16, and a 9/6 is 3. And then the widths are really that classic width, like spectrum of thick widths, like where a 9/6 is 23, a 9/8 is like 23 1/8, and a 9/4 is like 22 3/4. And those widths are really comfortable for a lot of surfers that don't want the wider models like the Levitator 2 and the Beacon and the Continental. If you want a range of different wave styles and wave sizes, this is a really good board. I wouldn't say that it's the greatest board in like 2-foot waves. It has, a good amount of rocker overall, so it's not going to feel super lively when it's 2 feet. I would lean towards other models that we have, but when it's like waist high or chest high, that's kind of where you're going to feel it's even at shoulder high. And then if it's the conditions are right and it's glassy, you're going to love this thing at head high.